Well, good evening. How's everyone doing this evening? I see you have actually accessed the chat. I'm so excited to see that. So please let us know you're here and that you can hear us loud and clear as we get ready to get started with the ultimate job candidate. Looking forward to having my esteemed pastor and also Dr. Womack, clap, 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 uh, join us as we start our session.
Well, hello, everybody. So good to see you guys tonight. So glad you guys are here. We're excited for our live audience, and we're also excited for those who will view this in the future. It's definitely an awesome tool for people, the ultimate job candidate. On last week, we talked about pitch. How good is your pitch? Recognizing that you're always in a position where you're making a pitch towards people. So we're excited that you guys are here on tonight. Tonight, we're focusing on resumes. So we're focusing on resumes tonight. Hopefully you all can pull those resumes together and make sure those resumes help you stand out. Now, I'm probably dating myself here, but Miss Lisa, do you remember finding Waldo?
Oh my gosh. Where in the world is Waldo?
Yeah, but where?
No, I don't know who that is, Pastor. Who's Waldo?
I know, right? So back in the day, it was finding Waldo, and you had to find Waldo. And today, when you're making your applications and you're trying to get a raise, get a different job, you are Waldo, and you're trying to stand out among all these people who are out there. So we got a great session planned for you all on tonight. Want to say hello to Brother John Newman. Say hello to Daryl Atwater. Say hello to my good friend, Miss Michelle Buckley. Thank you for coming on tonight. And congratulations. You got 2 promotions in 2 weeks. Congratulations. We are super excited for you and so thankful for what God is doing in your life. Amen. And thank you for stepping out there courageously. Miss Lisa, why don't you give us an outline, give us an overview of what we got happening tonight?
So tonight we are actually going to have a great time together. We're actually going to be talking about the resume fundamentals. We're going to also be talking about traditional versus contemporary resumes. We're going to have a Q&A with Pastor. He's going to share some awesome leadership tips as well for you. And then we also would love to have you participate. Let's make this interactive. We'll also speak on resume flaws and also how to solve those flaws. And then, of course, we'll close with Q&A. We have the expert on the line in the person of Dr. Womack and a little bit of experience myself. I was in HR for about 20 years in the C-suite, spent quite a bit of time on that. So I look forward to the opportunity of sharing with you, Pastor, as we go through this interactive. So Pastor, speaking of that, can you tell us a little bit of what inspired you to actually create this actual ultimate job candidate process? Because when you showed it to me, I was blown away. You spent quite a bit of time on it. I could tell you researched it quite a bit, and I was very impressed with the actual information that you are sharing.
Well, thank you. You know, my first degree was actually in back when we called it personnel management. So my first degree actually was in HR, and I was around a lot of Shermer people who were in the Society of Human Resource Management and all that kind of stuff before I got my master's degree. And I just find myself helping people to better qualify for jobs. As a church, our overall mission is to partner with people to maximize their life in Christ. And so one of our 7 major areas is professional. And so this kind of fits in right there. And so I find myself coaching people, advising people on how to climb the corporate ladder and how to get 6-figure jobs. And so kind of pull together a plan as a researcher, kind of pull together a plan to do that. I'm passionate. This particular series is not per se for our church in particular. It's for our community. So we want to service you all in our community. We want to go beyond our walls, beyond our doors to be a blessing to people. John 29 says to look out for the welfare of the city. And so one of the major issues in our culture right now is the economy, it's inflation, and people are underemployed or people are unemployed. So I want to help be a solution to help people to find jobs or find better jobs.
Wow, that was a lot, and I appreciate that. And being able to receive this at no charge is really a blessing. And those of you that are on here, please take copious copious notes, please also interact and take advantage of this opportunity, because this is usually not provided at a no cost situation. And those of you that are on here probably understand that, and we appreciate you being here. So, Pastor, why is optimizing resumes a critical step for the job search process? Tell me a little bit about that.
Before a person gets to meet you, they see a representation of you. And as we shared last week, the first impression they typically get is typically your resume. And so a recruiter gets your resume, you make an application and you submit your resume. And that becomes the first impression that most people have of you, is your resume. And people often underestimate the power of a resume. But I think also what happens as well is that people also underestimate and don't appreciate the impact of having a process. So we put together a methodology, which I call the promotion plan. The promotion plan is like a 9-step process to look at the overall employment process. Finding a job is a job these days. Finding a good job is a job these days. And so I've been coaching people, helping people to find jobs. And so if you don't have a good resume, you don't get interviews. If you don't interview well, you don't get job offers. And so we're trying to say, how can I help people to go through this process? The first thing is to prime yourself. Miss Lisa, I find that many people just go to the resume and they're responsive and not proactive. They're reactive instead of proactive.
Correct.
They don't go in well prepared. They don't go in. So you know what? I'm a product. And so when you go in, you're not just a person, you're also a product. And then how can you impact the bottom line of somebody else? The next thing is to revise the resume and cover letters. And we'll discuss that on tonight. So how can your resume stand out? But I'm dating myself again. Remember back when we used to do resumes, and the way your resume came up, it wasn't no email. So the way your resume stood out was you put it on resume paper. And it was the thick linen paper, and you had to get the ivory or the tan. Some folks got gray. If you really risky, you got green. But we don't have that option anymore to have great resume paper to make your resume stand out. So how do you make it stand out? And then next, we want to make sure that you observe the employment landscape and trends. And we'll talk about some tonight. What are some of the trends? And then next is match your values and skill sets to employment opportunities. So as a person who's interviewing, when you're putting a resume in as an applicant, it's your job to show them how your skills, talents, and abilities match the role you're trying to get. And then we want to make sure you have an onboarding coach, because they say the most important time in a flight is when you take off and when you land. And so it's important to take off well in a new job. Your first impressions, your first meetings, your first presentations, your first reports, your first feedback, your meeting with your first with your direct reports, and then track your transferable skills. So what are your transferable skills? I was reading there, I forget where it was. There was a CEO from another industry who became a CEO in an entirely different industry. And that's because of transferable skills. Then interviewing well, offer negotiation, and then networking well. So that's the overall system that we're looking at, Ms. Lisa, and the big picture of when it comes to networking and when it comes to finding a 6-figure job.
Wow, that's a wealth of information. You said it there. And Dr. Womack, in this capacity, and I love what you said in the sense that you said you're a product. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about, your personal brand a little bit more, but it really is. And coming from being on the other side of looking at those resumes, once they get to me, because back in the day, as you know, I have these ATSs and we're going to talk about that, but there were people. And they went through hundreds, if not thousands of resumes, and then you needed to make it to the top. So that was a really good way to say how you want your resume to stand out. I think that is so valuable in some of the things that you put together just in that simple. And I also caught that it said promotion. Did you guys catch that under that methodology?
Anybody want a promotion? Smile at me. And so, this has a double barrel to it. It can help you find a job when you have a job, or can help you find the job when you don't have a job. And so how do you distinguish yourself? Ms. Lisa, as I think about this, I think about the overall thing of a resume and what makes resumes unique, what makes resumes different now. And we have traditional resumes, then we have contemporary resumes. And so when you think about traditional resumes versus contemporary resumes, what do you think about?
The difference to me, between a traditional resume and a contemporary resume is exactly what it is. You have the chronological ones, and then you
Mhm,
have the ones where it's going to build into different skills, and you make it more attractive, having KPIs, not KPIs, but achievements and different things that you've done. So you have your traditional, and then you have the contemporary. But
mhm,
Pastor, you're awesome in that. How you've put it together, and you say you can even do a combination of the two,
mhm.
which I think is pretty awesome as well. And tell us a little bit more about, how to focus on those accomplishments and those measurable outcomes, and as you go through this as well here.
Uh-huh. So when we look at the traditional experience, it's typically based upon your experience. And so
Hmm.
you say, I started here, I ended here, here are my duties, here are my responsibilities. But in a contemporary resume, it's more about your achievements. So you don't just say where you worked, you say what you achieved. So in the
Okay.
traditional resume, you describe your responsibilities, your past roles, but in a contemporary resume, you highlight specific accomplishments and measurable results, and then
Hmm.
you help pinpoint how they relate to the job you're applying for. In traditional experience resumes, it's more about generic, task oriented. I was responsible for managing budgets. They don't tell us much. But in a contemporary achievement base, you use action oriented and result driven language. Example, I reduced the cost by 20% annually. So,
Perfect.
managing budget is one thing. Did you manage it well? Did you manage it poorly? Did you save money? Were you under budget, over budget? But when you say I reduced the cost by 20% annually, now you're communicating. In the traditional, on the detail level, you provide high level overviews without quantifiable metrics. But in contemporary achievements, you provide details and quantifiable outcomes, percentages, dollars amount, time saved. Remember, you're a product. Now, as a product, how can you impact the bottom line? So you have to become a strategist and a critical thinker. There's a book out called Chess, Not Checkers. And so when you go into a traditional format, you're playing checkers. But when you come into a contemporary place, you're now playing chess. And so, Miss Lisa, those are just a couple of things that distinguish those two things. The structure, you list your duties in bullet points, whereas on a contemporary resume, you list your achievements, you list your results, your interventions. You incorporate keywords from the job description in contemporary resumes. So now you don't just focus on having good grammar. You focus on, okay, I need to have artificially intelligent grammar. I need to have I need to have words that are going to stand out. They're going to ping the
Correct.
system. I need to
Yes.
have words that are going to cause the system to pull my resume and put it into the short stack. Um, you want to show how you can create value. And so you want to engage the recruiter by demonstrating impact and contributions. I was talking to next week's guest, Miss Lisa. We've got Daryl Atwater's coming with us to talk about interviewing. And he was
Awesome.
just sharing some incredible insights about how to engage the recruiter. So those are just some things I think are important there. We would love to see you guys questions in the chat here. There.
And we do have one in the chat, Pastor.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. And it says, do you ask if an onboard coach is provided in the job interview, or do you wait until after the job is offered?
Your onboarding coach is secured by you. And so that comes at your expense because this is your job. This is your opportunity to shine. If the organization provides an onboard coach, then what happens is there's a level of tracking that's there. There's a level of
Mm,
measuring that's there. It may not be as safe, but when you hire your own onboard coach, then what happens is that this is a safe person. This person, quote unquote, works for you. And so it's not going to penalize you. One thing I think about too as well is that very often we don't invest in our greatest asset, and that's ourselves. And so when it comes to resume, when it comes to life, when it comes to increasing our skills, how much money do you invest in yourself? And so if you won't invest money in yourself, why should other people invest money in you? If you're not willing to sacrifice to make yourself better, why should other people sacrifice to make you better? So what happens is we don't recognize the return on investment when it comes to trying to get a job. We say, well, I don't have the money because I don't have a job. Well, Don't think about the job you have now. Think about the job you're going to get. All righty. So let me kind of pause, Miss Lisa. I'm just saying what I'm saying.
And but what you're saying is quite valuable. And as I was sharing that, one of the persons have already asked, will be sharing the slides. I said, I hope they're taking copious notes, because this can be monetized. I'm not sure if he's going to sell those or not. Share those or not, I should say. But what I will say is definitely take copious notes and spend some time just doing that. And as you said, Pastor, onboarding coach, I definitely would encourage someone to hire, particularly this gentleman that's on the line right now, Dr. Womack, as he's created these different things. And I'm sure as a coach, he can do even more to help you and be able to streamline to help you personally. But as we go forward, some key takeaways, and I see it here, Pastor, that you've created is what you said: focus on what you've done, focus on what you've accomplished, but the ROI, it's what's key. And as you've said, companies now are so wanting to see you and your results, and quantifiable as well as verifiable, because it's one thing to say you have it, but do you have the documentation or the support to back it up? So Pastor, that's phenomenal in what you said there.
That's so true. People can say anything, but then can verify what you've stated. So that's why it's important to prepare your pitch. So then where you load your gun with facts, you load your gun with information that you're going to use. Let me give you a good outline for resumes, a good outline for resumes of a good resume. You have your header, and we're going to walk through this and share more with you. But a header, you have a professional summary. 2 to 3 sentences give an overview of your experience, your skills, and your value proposition. So people ought to be able to detect what is your value proposition up front. What are your skills? So that'd be a section for your skills. So in your skills section, you're just listing what your skills are. These are key words that would stop the ATS. Bing, 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 bing. They have these key words that are in this job description. So you want to have a section that includes these key words. Next is your professional experience. And so your professional experience, this is the place where you begin to talk about your accomplishments, what you achieved, what you accomplished. The next area is your education. And so don't fabricate or manufacture things. People can check your education. People aren't as concerned as much about your education as they're concerned about what you can do. And so if you can list about what you can do, that's helpful. Now, if you have the education, go for it. But what can you do with the education? Next are your certifications. I want to encourage you guys, your certifications are just as important, if not more important, in education.
Yes. Because
the certification says the industry, not a school, not a professor, not some bookworm who hadn't been out there, but somebody who's been in the street, somebody who's been in the industry, they have verified that you can do these things. So certifications verify you have the skills, the talents, and the abilities to do certain things. And then next is your additional information. And so we'll talk more about that, but how do you include additional information that may not be exactly germane to the specific job performance, but it paints a broader picture of who you are and what you can do. So me and Ms. Lisa was talking. Ms. Lisa, why don't you share what you were saying about associations and affiliations earlier today?
So one of the things I had suggested and is very good for you to do is this 2 different situations. So one is, for example, in my previous life, I actually served on the committee that actually did Obamacare. We actually worked with Mars Fowler, Liz Erie, and those folks. You want to make sure that's on the resume, and it could be whether it's at the state level, but you want to share it. And as far as organizations are concerned, you want to make sure that you say it properly and in the right value so that we can see it, because what tends to happen is sometimes we put our social organizations on there, but you want to make sure it's seen as if you were a leader in that organization, or if you help the organization itself improve, as Dr. Womack has stated, from a financial perspective, not necessarily that you are a participant of this fraternity or this sorority or this chamber or that chamber. You want to make sure it shows what you did, even what you achieved there, not that you're just a member of an organization.
Yeah, I thought that was a very key insight, because very often we're proud of our organizations and our affiliations, but it's important to be strategic. the question is not if it's important to you. The question becomes, what's the perception of the people who are critiquing you, evaluating you? And then people have so many direct biases and then indirect biases.
Yes.
And so you want to be careful what you put on your resume, because sometimes things that really don't matter can interfere with you getting an interview. It can point out certain things about you. You know, we got this big issue about DEI these days. And, you know, you just want to be intentional about that. So let's go through here and give you some description and direction for good resumes. Number one is your header. It needs to contain your full name, phone number, professional email. And so don't be putting, you know, I am Scruffy 3, okay, or I am Scrapper 7. You don't want to have anything that disqualifies you. And so if people see an email address that seems out of the norm, that seems foreign, you may appreciate it, but somebody who doesn't know you may draw a conclusion about you by your email address. So I want to encourage you, save your personal email, save your nickname email for your partners, your friends, your informal network, but don't use that in your professional context. Links for your LinkedIn and or your portfolio. So it's important to have a LinkedIn page today. People typically look you up before they call you up.
Yes.
People typically look you up before they call you up. So make sure you scrub your social media. Make sure that you know, I've even known people who have 2 social media pages. They have a nickname for their personal page where they can interact and post all this crazy stuff. But for their professional page, that's their name. And they don't put unprofessional stuff on their professional page. And then they have a different name for their personal name. Provide essential contact details in a clean, professional manner, making it easy for recruiters to reach you. So is it easy to reach out to you? Professional summary, a 2 to 3 sentence snapshot of highlighting your career expertise and unique value proposition. You know, as a communicator and a speaker for a living, typically I don't want to go and speak somewhere where they give me 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Why? Want to take a guess, Miss Lisa? Why I don't want to go speak for 10 or 15 minutes?
Because it doesn't give you an opportunity to really expound or set the tone, nor then do the meat and then be able to wrap it up and allow on top of that for questions if it is an interactive one. If it's not, just being able to effectively communicate to the audience you're speaking to.
There we go. So what happens is it's more difficult to prepare for a 10-minute speech than it is for a 1-hour speech. Because in a 10-minute speech, you got to cut out so much stuff, okay?
Yes.
So for your professional summary, you now get 2 or 3 sentences to communicate what your professional goal is, what you're trying to go after. It's not just having a professional summary. It's having a vibrant, clear, inviting, professional summary. It should grab attention. It should summarize who you are, what you offer, and why you're the right fit for the role. All it has to come in 2 or 3 sentences. It may take you 15 versions, 20 versions to get this one statement correct. And then this statement may need to change when you go over to a different job. Okay. Skill section. Your skill section is different from your achievement section. In your skill section, and you need to have a skill section in your resume. It's a concise, keyword-rich list of your general capabilities, technical proficiencies, and industry-specific skills. So, what are the skills that are listed on the job description? And then how can you ensure those skills are valid about you? And then you have those skills on your resume. Do you have a story and an achievement for every skill you list on your resume? And so very often when people are interviewing you, if you can't give a story and a validation for what you've listed, they might not say anything to you, but they begin to cut the interview short. Okay. Yes. So then here's some examples: strategic planning and execution, financial analysis, Excel, Tableau, SQL, CRM systems, Salesforce. That's a big one these days. HubSpot, Agile and waterfall project management. So what you're saying is in a very concise way, I have the expertise. What do you want to add, Ms. Lisa?
No, I said it is very true that you want to make sure you have a story, because I cannot tell you how many times you'll ask a pointed question, and you'll ask the individual, well, tell me about a time when you used SQL, or tell me about a time when you've worked as a marketing person and you used a CRM. What was the CRM? Tell me about what you did. How did you go out and see your clients? Whatever the situation is, whatever metrics you're asking about, and the person doesn't have a story ready. And so that definitely validates it, because I wanted to say that, Pastor, because what happens is you also need to have depth, because some people go study quick and think that's enough. If you're interviewing for 6-figure jobs, please be sure to have the depth. Do not put anything on there where someone's going to peel back that onion further and you don't have anything to support it.
Yeah. So, well, how do you validate that? Your professional experience. They some do it chronologically. You don't want to include anything that's too old and kind of outdated, because technology changes, KPIs change, KPMs change, needs change. If it's relevant, include it. If it's not relevant, really count if you're going to use it. A detailed account of your previous roles, including job titles, employers, dates, and each role includes 3 to 4 bullet points. Watch this now, 3 to 5 bullet points showcasing specific accomplishments.
Good.
What did you get done in the role? Not just I was there. Okay, everybody was there, but what did you do while you were there? What difference did you make? So here's an example. Manage a $20 million operating budget, reallocating resource to prioritize high growth projects, increasing ROI by 15%. That's tangible. So if it's a $20 million company, you're talking about 15%. You're talking about $3 million. Who don't want to see an impact on their bottom line of $3 million? Led a cross-functional team of 12 to launch a product, achieving a 25% increase in market share. You increase 25% in market share. Okay. So then you all were number 2 or number 3 in the market. Okay. We know who number 1 is. They got 45%. And then if you increased it up to 25%, that must have been 35 or 40. Where'd you guys start at? How'd you move it? What was your strategy? How'd you do that? Streamline process across 3 departments, reducing costs by $1.5 million annually. So companies are trying to get lean. They're looking at 6 Sigma and things like that. And so when you start saying, we improved about $1.5 million annually. Education, you all know what that is, but be able to talk about how your education has better equipped you for that job and that role and to make an impact. Many people have education, but what can you do with your education? Can you translate that knowledge and make a difference? Certifications, you all know what that is. And then additional information. It includes optional but relevant details such as language proficiency. Nowadays, people are working internationally. So do you know multiple languages? Do you know Chinese? Our kids learning Chinese in school now. Spanish is very popular in states like Texas and California. Do you know those things? As it adds depth to your resume, showcasing unique qualification or experience that align with the role. Fluent in Spanish, conversational in Mandarin. Have you worked across time zones? Have you worked with a team that's in a different time zone and was able to service them and function with them and adjust with them? Technical proficiency, Python, Power, SAP, SAP, all that stuff. Okay. So here's some resume attributes. You want to make sure it's aligned with applicant tracking systems, ATS. And so there are a number of ATS systems, but you want to make sure that your resume is aligned to ATS. Relevant professional experiences, we talked about that. Exceptional qualifications, including certification and specialized skills. Strategic inclusion of keywords. So you need to do a critical analysis, an MRI, a CT scan on the job description, so that you can extract keywords and then dump those into your resume. Okay. Unique contributions. So what did you do that was unique? Okay. Major accomplishments and active professional memberships, not social memberships, but professional memberships. Okay. There's a young girl at our church, and she just got her undergraduate degree. She wants to be in healthcare. I said, well, you know what? The green card in healthcare for healthcare management. My first master's degree was in health services administration. It's an MBA. It's an additional year of healthcare. And so I said, you know what? The green card is ACHE if you're going to be in hospitals. And back when I was coming through, we had small group management organizations. Your peers don't want to go to boring conferences. You go to conferences because you want to put a name with a face. You want to go listen to speakers. You want to get their name. You want to follow back up and say, you know what? Here's who I am. Look forward to learning from you in the future. So then you leave a mark in their head. So then when a job comes up in their organization, hey, I met you at the conference 3 years ago. I was the lady who was so-and-so and so-and-so. Or if you keep in touch, write this down. Build the relationship before you need the relationship. People don't want you trying to get close to them just because you want to get close to the job. Build the relationship before you need the relationship. Your expertise is showcased. What is your expertise? If you can't articulate your expertise fluently and confidently, you're not really ready for an interview. Okay. I talk about cover letters, clear and compelling, optimistic tone conveys positivity and confidence. So if you get to a point where now they want to read your cover letter, that's another opportunity to pitch yourself in a more expansive way. This is no area to be shy. It's an area to be positive. Speak about your future contributions, how you can impact the company, work in your company knowledge and what the company does. Vividly illustrate your potential contributions. So help paint a picture of them seeing you in the job. So as you're interviewing and you're talking, now, but this is touchy as well, talk as if when you have the job, you want to begin to help them to see you in the role. If you all were to give me this role, here's what I envision I can do. Do you have a 30-day plan, a 60-day plan, a 90-day plan? And we'll talk more about that next week. Very often people don't think that. They say, well, I'll think about it when I get the job. No, we want people who come in ready for the job.
Yes.
Exercising and communicating your cultural fit. Understand the line with the company's values and mission. So a friend of mine was applying for a leadership role at Amazon. Amazon has these 16 leadership characteristics. And so he said, well, man, I got these 16 characteristics. The recruiter shared these with me. And I started walking through them. Okay, well, man, this book talks about this. This book talks about this. I mean, you need a story for every one of those experiences. It needs to be fluid and go fast. Can you talk about your cultural fit and for how you can fit what Amazon wants? I was talking with somebody who was interviewing with GE. And so we talked about what are the values of GE? What are the priorities of GE? And how do you fit GE's culture? Reflect your unique quality, style, insights, offering a glimpse into your personality and professional demeanor. It's not just your education. It's not just your experience, but it's their chemistry. How well will you fit on this team? Melissa, did you want to chime in right now?
No, I'm loving the points. And I wrote that down, and I hope you guys did as well, because he did say, write that down, and he meant it. Build a relationship before you need the relationship. For sure.
Exactly. One of the reasons that many people are at a disadvantage because people don't know to call you. They don't have your phone number. They don't have your email. They've never seen your face. They hadn't heard from you. You don't stay in touch. And so very often people don't stay in touch enough. It's not a matter about personality. It's a matter of relationships, authenticity, marketability, and improving yourself and your craft and your trade. Who are the people that you know who are experts in the area where you are functioning, serving? Okay, you know who the experts are. Guys, this next area, I promise you, this is a distinguishing area. I promise you, and I go in and I'm consulting and coaching and training organizations. People don't think about this. This will take you to a whole nother level when you have this as a framework and you think about this as an applicant, you think about this as an employer, you think about this as an employee. And it's something called the pipeline, a leadership pipeline in your resume. So there's a book that came out by Ram Sharan and a couple other people, and they talked about this idea of a leadership pipeline. How do you grow and go to the next level in an organization? Most people think about their roles in the context of their level where they're currently functioning. You don't get promoted for functioning well at your level. You get promoted, you get the job because you begin to show signs and glimpses that you can function at the next level. So when you go in to do an interview, what level are you interviewing at? Individual contributor, a team leader, a department manager, a division manager. There are different characteristics that characterize each one of these levels. So if you're going in for a role that will be characterized as a division manager role, are you thinking, are you speaking, are you communicating like a division manager? Too often we go into these roles, but we're not communicating as a, like we're functioning at the next level. We're not communicating fluently, like we know exactly what's happening at this level. So for example, C-suite people have an entirely different perspective than non-C-suite people. Okay. An individual contributor is concerned about me, myself, and I. A team leader begins to think about other people. A department manager is thinking about even more people. So why is leadership pipeline important? A leadership pipeline is important for several reasons. Number one, it provides a structured approach to leadership development. How am I personally developing? So you want to apply from a standpoint of how are you personally developing? Two, it identifies leadership gaps. What are the skills you need to function at the next level? So you can list your achievements, but if those achievements are not characteristic of what's needed at that level or the next level, then a person who has those skills transcends you. It supports succession planning. It promotes alignment with organizational strategy. It enhances retention and engagement. It builds organizational resilience. It improves organizational performance. How are we developing people in the pipeline? Who's going to come next? Who's going to be able to do what? Let me pause right here. Let me see if give me your thoughts and your understanding on the pipeline. Give me your thoughts and your understanding on the leadership pipeline.
And guys, you can put that in the chat. We'd be happy to hear about it. Pastor, one of the things that I liked what you had with the progression on the ladder. One of the things I definitely would like to pose to you to assist the audience here is language is very important. As you said, C-suite is very different. Can you, along with them, can you give an example of that? So is it that the words that they're being used, or if they're interviewing and let's say they're a director or senior director and they're looking for a VP role, with words like delegate, direct, lead the team, how do they challenge the team? What are some examples in terms of making sure they're using the right language? If you could share, what does that look like?
Yeah, let me back up some here. If you're in an organization and let's say you're trying to apply for a department manager role, they want to see what is your perspective, what is your scope, what is your understanding. Do you use the appropriate terms like, okay, I'm going to delegate to my team to get this accomplished? I mean, if you're going someplace where it's going to be a department, but you're consistently saying, I, me, here's what I can accomplish, here's what I can do, you're the wrong person. Because when you start getting to a department manager, we're looking for multiplication, not addition. We're looking for people who understand how to get things done through other people and not just merely doing things themselves. For example, here's some essential skills at these various levels. If you're an individual contributor, are you concerned about his technical expertise, self-management, innovation, and reliability? But once you go to a team leader, we're starting to ask questions about people management, basic leadership, performance coaching, conflict resolution. When you go all the way up here to level 5 and a business unit leader, we're talking about market analysis, business strategy, P&L management, customer relationship management. So guys, it's a whole different conversation. Okay, it's a whole different area of focus. The dashboard looks different in a Maserati than it does in an entry-level Hyundai. Okay, both of them move, both of them go, but they're functioning at two entirely different levels. So a pipeline is extremely important. It's a framework designed to help organizations systematically develop leaders, but it's also a framework where you can demonstrate and use vocabulary to communicate to the people interviewing you that you know what's transpiring in their sphere. You know what's transpiring at a higher level. As you go higher in the organization, things become more abstract. As you go higher in the organization, things become more abstract. So we're not concerned about how many widgets you make anymore. We're concerned about how can you influence the market? How can you move a department? How can you have greater productivity? How can you increase margins? How can you decrease expenses and increase revenues? How can you bring on the proper staff to oversee and help other people function at the other levels of organization? Portfolio strategy, resource allocation, negotiation, public representation, creating synergies. These are higher level jobs. So people often want them to get paid more, but they're not prepared to do higher level functioning roles and jobs. And so when you're managing self, you're talking about developing technical and individual skills, managing others, level 2, leading a team and fostering performance. Level 3, managing managers. It's somebody wrote a book. Peter Drucker wrote a book talk about herding cats. He talked about how management is like herding cats. And so the more skills people have, the more talent they have, the less they want to be directed. So now how do you develop the skill to begin to coach leaders and managing systems? And so now are you thinking about systems and how to get things done more intentionally? The next one is a functional manager, overseeing functional areas and ensuring alignment with business goals. So can you ensure that this department is going to help achieve our return on investment? We're going to perform for our stockholders. And so, guys, these are entirely different conversations. It's an entirely different area of focus. The other areas are important, but we got people who are there doing that. The next level is a business manager, leading a business unit and taking profit and loss accountability. So I'm going to take responsibility for if our department is profiting. I'm going to take accountability for us improving our specific piece of the pie for the organization. The next level is an enterprise leader, shaping the organizational vision, executing large-scale strategies. And so, guys, this should generate some questions here. So I want to see you guys post in the chat and share with us what some of your questions are. And then I'm going to show you how this influences your resume. Any thoughts or comment, Miss Lisa?
Yeah, I believe what you've said is just phenomenal in terms of that. One of the things that I wanted to highlight that you said was in relationship to how the wording changes or how the function changes at the different levels. In terms of that, Pastor or Dr. Womack, let's use your formal term now. You've earned that, Dr. Womack. What would you say or how would that person be able to project that? I understand what you're saying here. Is that innate? Is that in their experience? Or is there some way they can also acquire that? What would you recommend for someone that is looking to move to that next level from, let's say, a division manager to the C-suite, or not even C-suite, because it'll be a step in between that middle management. So they're in lower management, they come in as a general manager, or not a manager of managers, but how would they get to that next level? What would you suggest? How would they go about getting that?
Awesome. Number one, identify the skills necessary at the next level. Identify the skills and the competencies necessary at the next level. Understand what performance looks like at the next level. See, a common mistake is that people think all leadership roles are equal. They think all management roles are equal. Number one, there's a distinction between management and leadership. Managers make sure things are done right. Leaders make sure we're doing the right things. Managers tend to be more responsive. Leaders tend to be more proactive.
That's good.
You all have heard about Wayne Gretzky. He was the great hockey player.
Excellent.
And Wayne Gretzky, they say, Wayne Gretzky, what distinguishes you from other hockey players? He said, that's easy. They said, easy. He said, yes. He said, most people play where the puck is. I play where the puck is going. Professionally, are you playing where the puck is, or are you playing where the puck is going? Are you having conversations with your boss about things that are pertinent about their roles while you're performing in your role? Let me give you some indicators and how to indicate some of these levels on your resume. So if you're an individual contributor, and there's nothing wrong with being an individual contributor, okay? But just recognize, unless you're in a highly innovative area, an individual contributor, unless like you're in science and research, you typically don't make as much as people working together on a team and leading the team, moving a business unit. So they highlight technical skills, certifications, examples of individual contributors. Okay. They're designed and implemented a workflow automation system, increasing efficiency by 15%. That's more of a personal contribution. When you go to a team leader, you showcase leadership of teams or individuals. Example, supervise the team of 10, deliver projects ahead of schedule with a 98% client satisfaction rate. Someone asked the question, Ms. Buckley asked the question, the difference between managers and leaders. Managers focus on doing things right. Leaders focus on doing the right things. Managers focus typically on where we are. Leaders typically focus on where we are going. When it comes to this next level, department managers, they emphasize leadership development, cross-functional impact, directed a multi-department team, achieving 25% cost reduction through improved workflows. So when you start to get to a department manager, you got to start putting together developmental plans for your team. You got to increase the capacity of your department. You got to make sure that you know what's happening in our area is critical, it's concise, it's moving the entire group. We're improving the competence of what our team can accomplish. Next is this division manager, include budget and strategy achievements. So you say, well, I'm strategic. Okay, give us a demonstration of how you implement a strategy. You devise a strategy, you execute a strategy, then you evaluate a strategy, and then give us the results of the implementation of that strategy. I managed a $15 million budget. I aligned department goals to corporate strategy, increased revenue by 20%. So now this is becoming a division manager type effort. These are things you can work into your resume. Now you move to the executive level. Okay, an EVP, executive vice president, a group VP, a senior VP, a chief operations officer. You're starting to get your toes wet in the C-suite. You highlight large-scale strategy and multiple business leadership. Oversaw 5 business units, integrating operations to achieve $500 million in annual revenue. So then how do you demonstrate that you're able and what you've achieved across multiple platforms, across multiple groups, and you impacted there? Then the C-suite, CEO, managing director, COO, showcasing organizational vision and global impact. These people think very abstractly. These people think strategy. These people don't get caught up in the weeds. These people think at the 50-foot level, 60-foot level, 100-foot level. These are your futuristic thinkers. These are people who are thinking about driving growth across 15 global markets. What is well, when you're at GE, who was the guy at GE who they celebrated so much? Lee Iacocca. And so remember him, was it Jack Welch? No, Lee Iacocca was Chrysler.
Chrysler, yeah, you're right.
Jack Welch was GE.
GE,
and so Jack Welch was able to move GE like never before. Okay. So anyway, GE had a management school for a long time, and up in I think it was Flint, Michigan, for years to develop their platform. To develop their pipeline. I want to pause. I want to take time for us to do questions from you all in these last few minutes that we have together. What questions do you all have? We got more information, but we're about out of time. So want to get some questions from you all, some feedback from you all. We don't want to just talk at you. We want to talk with you. How can we assist? What have you seen? What have you heard?
You can definitely use the chat feature. But Pastor, in the meantime, what would be something you give as a key advice on the resume for something for a candidate to avoid on their resume?
You know what? Number one, avoid errors on your resume. You know, people get on resumes. You want to avoid misspelled words. You want to avoid errors. You want to have a clear executive summary. And so, what is your purpose statement? What's your executive summary that you're trying to do? You want to make sure you quantify your achievements. At this level, everybody worked hard. At this level, everybody came on time. And so you want to make sure that you are articulating your achievements. Don't emphasize your job duties. Okay, People don't want to know what you did. They want to know what you achieved. Don't use too much technical jargon. Don't have poor formatting. I was helping one person one time, and they had these long 10-point font paragraph descriptions of what they did in the role. Okay, nobody's going to read that. Okay, and they want to get interviews. Lack of keywords, not having keywords, or having outdated information. Back in 1976, limited focus on leadership. Those are just some things I think that people make a mistake on their resumes.
Okay. I see that. I can't see. Thank you for providing tangible information. The natural Tay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All righty. Awesome. Well, guys, we're going to close it down. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One other thing I think, Pastor, would be Dr. Womack. I like using that. One other question, I think, what's a common mistake you see that should be avoided?
Common thing that should be avoided is insufficient focus on soft skills.
Okay.
I think it's important now to say, I am a team player. I can work with the team. I know how to adjust and adapt. Ignoring leadership development. And so go-getters have in fact, get that book. It's a book called Go-Getter. And it's by a guy named Burnley. I think his name is Burnley, but it's a book called The Go-Getter. It's by Burnley. It came out Michael Byrne, B-Y-R-N-E. Burney, B-Y-R-N-E. B-Y-R-N-E is called The Go-Getter. And it's a short story. He writes like Patrick Lencioni, but he wrote his book in 1929. And in writing that book, what he talked about is how to be a go-getter. So you may think you're a go-getter, but you can stand apart when you can overcome obstacles. You're flexible. You can think critically. You can think independently. People are not looking to hold your hand anymore. They want you can function independently. Independent. You can problem solve. You can overcome obstacles. So I think that some of those things being left off can limit your ability to be recognized in the job market.
So, Dr. Womack, one final question, which I think is important, and we definitely would love to have some closing comments from you if you have time, would be, how can they reach out to you further? Because I'm sure someone would want to be able to, some of the folks that are here may want to reach out to you for you to possibly do some coaching with them. How would they go about doing that?
And you can reach out to me at the church, J.R. Womack at discoverdestiny.org, and they'll put that on the screen. J.R. Womack at discoverdestiny.org. This is an outreach of our church. And so, as you all can see, we're not trying to come preach Bible passages to you. We're trying to really help you grow professionally. And we've worked hard to kind of hone these things down. But J.R. Womack at discoverdestiny.org. You can look that up, and I would love to have the privilege to visit with you and share with you. We look at organizations, we look at individual performance, and now I'm really passionate about high performance. And so we're not trying to say, how can we be mediocre? We don't want to put the price, pay the price. So you can reach out to me that way. I would love to hear from you and brainstorm with you. We start off with assessments. We do assessments. And so we do personality assessments. I'm starting to use the working genius assessment as well. If it's a leadership role, I do an assessment called the work of leaders to assess what are your leadership strengths, what are your leadership tendencies. We ask you to do a number of things just to kind of assess and define reality. The first job of a leader is to define reality. So where are you at? Where are you strong? What are your limitations? What are your what's your intentions versus your impact? So that's one thing there. So I would love to work with you, talk with you, coach you, and that whole piece there. So thank you for mentioning that. So I look forward to next week talking about interviews and interviewing. We got some great tips for interviewing that we want to share with you. Want to encourage you guys to reach out to.
Pastor, there is one question that just hopped in. I'm sorry to interrupt. There is one that came in from Angelica Mitchell, and it's a pretty good question.
You want to read it?
Yes, sir. Hello, I would like to know, how do you incorporate self-employment on your resume? Sometimes it seems like self-employment gets overlooked, as well as gaps in your resume from times when you are not. Great question, Angelica.
Yes, that's a great question. Very often self-employment, like for example, putting CEO on a self-employed company doesn't communicate much because we don't know the scale of your organization. We don't know your revenue. We don't know what you achieved. We don't know how many employees you had. We don't know your product. So if you're going to include your self-employment, include your results. Okay, include what your product was, include what your results were, include how you grew it from here to here. What are the transferable skills? And so that's a definite way to bridge that gap of self-employment to corporate employment or even government employment. Because, for example, I've got people I've worked with who worked in the military, and there's some people who are gun-shy to work with military people because they're so regimented, they're so structured, they're so A, B, C, D, E. They can be overly intense sometimes. So depending upon who the people are, you need to be able to adjust and adapt and work differently there. If you were in a bureaucracy, in a university system, things happen differently in a university system than they happen in corporate America. So being able to be flexible, adaptable, but then demonstrate how your skills are transferable and they're transcendent, how they can make a difference in this new environment, and how you can verify your results. And then also use the industry jargon so you can see that you are fluid and competent in what's happening in the job market, who the competitors are, and how to compete.
Thank you so much for that. I think that was definitely an ad. And you were talking about next week's session. I, again, apologize for the interruption, but thought that was a great question.
No, I've got 8 kids. There's no such thing as an interruption. Smile at me. Next session, we're talking about resumes, the ultimate job candidate interview. We got some good information about doing interviews, how you can shine in your interview, how you can go beyond the STAR method and make a difference in your interview. The STAR method is good, but all questions don't fit the STAR methodology. You want to leverage it, you want to use it, but then you also want to become a salesperson in that role. So I'm looking forward to it. Miss Lisa, thank you for tonight. Everybody, thank you for being on. In the background, I want to thank my son James for helping us be organized, on time, and technically excellent. And we'll see you all next week and bring somebody with you.